Welcome to A Voice from the Hills Conversations Podcast, episode number 2, Travel. I'm your host, James Werner, co-founder of Silicon Hills Wealth Management here in Austin, Texas, and I'm excited to be joined by Carl Anderson of Anderson Vacations to talk about travel. You know, as COVID-19 has delayed or even derailed our travel plans, it's really made us refocus on both the type of vacation we really want to have and the people we really want to have it with. So we decided to divide this podcast into 2 parts. The first part, destinations. We're going to talk about Africa to Antarctica. We're going to talk about new destinations to consider, but we're also going to talk about ways to combine luxury, adventure, and location as we restart, refine, and reshape what it really means for us to have a vacation. So welcome to part 1, destinations. Welcome, Carl, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you, James. Appreciate it.
You know, we've got clients and listeners with pent-up travel demand and unspent travel budgets. So let's talk bucket list trips and destinations. Do you have a couple of examples for us?
Absolutely, James. Yeah, you're certainly right as far as the pent-up demand for travel goes right now. We're seeing a great recovery now in the travel industry, and all those trips that our clients have been putting off for a couple of years are now on the front burner, if you will. We're seeing a big demand for more exotic destinations, really. We're talking Africa, Asia, polar regions. And of course, you know, there's the old standbys too that are still there. But Europe, especially Italy, and closer destinations like Hawaii.
Well, let's talk about Africa. Talk about a trip to Africa. And maybe, you know, when we think about going to Africa, we think about it being kind of an adventurous and discovery-oriented trip, right? But there's also a way to build some luxury into it, a little bit of pampering. Can you talk about how somebody might do that on a destination to Africa?
Absolutely, absolutely. So with Africa, you can do Africa in several different ways. But what most people will do, at least the travelers that appreciate the finer things, is they're going to join up with some of the better tour operators down there in Africa. We're talking about Mikado Safaris, Abercrombie and Kent. These are names that a lot of people may know. And these are going to be mostly guided trips because, let's face it, you're not going to go on a safari by yourself. So these are guided trips where you're going to be staying in luxury accommodations. The big type of accommodations that are popular in Africa are the tented type of accommodations. These are tented out in the bush, if you will, but they have all of the luxury amenities you would expect in a fine hotel. So you're out in the wilderness in a tented type of an atmosphere, but you're still getting all the luxury amenities that you'd expect. So it's a guided type of situation where you're going to do safaris most every day from your location. And of course, this can be South Africa. It can be up in Tanzania, Kenya, depending on where you want to go. And side trips, of course, from there would include Victoria Falls and other areas of South Africa like Cape Town. And if you wanted to really extend that, you can go out to the islands, out to Seychelles and even the Maldives if you wanted to. It's reachable, of course, from Africa. So it depends on how much time you have. Most people will spend 5 or 7 days somewhere down doing the wildlife drives, whether in South Africa, again, up in Tanzania, depending on the time of year. So it could be a combination, but for the most part, there are plenty of opportunities, depending on your budget, to plan a nice destination trip down there for about a week. So
it sounds like they've brought glamping to
exactly.
the safari or the Sahara.
I think they actually invented glamping down there in Africa. Exactly.
Oh, we brought it here. That makes more sense.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about another a destination that we talked about at some point, Antarctica.
Yeah,
it's got to be on some people's bucket list. How do you make that happen?
Well, I hope so, because it's definitely on my bucket list, and it's something that's become much more popular these days for a variety of reasons. It used to be that Antarctica was a place that only a few people could ever reach. You know, the weather guys were down there at their weather stations, and that's about the only people you'd see in Antarctica. But because of technology and because of the new ships that are being built, mostly within the luxury scale of the cruises, we now can reach Antarctica in a way that we've never been able to do before. So this is really becoming now a destination that's becoming more popular. And, you know, it's not only Antarctica, it's the polar regions of the North Pole, northern Norway, Northern Lights, that area up there. These are all regions that, you know, even a decade ago couldn't be reached. But now with the advent of these brand new cruise ships that are being purpose-built so that they can handle, you know, the region better than other ships, this has now become much more popular among travelers. And again, it's like Africa. This is a way to see a destination without kind of roughing it, if you will. You're not really roughing it because you're actually going to be in the lap of luxury on a cruise ship that's going to have only 200 passengers. You're going to be eating, it's fine dining, service levels are over the top. So, you get the best of both worlds. You're going to a destination that's exotic, but you're getting all of the luxury accoutrements on board a ship, which is, by the way, more like a floating yacht than it is a cruise ship.
And so it seems like there's not that trade-off with experience and luxury anymore that there might have been even 10 or 15 years ago.
That's exactly right, and that's the trend in travel, is that we want to get to these destinations that we couldn't get to in the past, but we don't want to sacrifice anything if we don't have to get there. Most travelers still want all of those luxury amenities that they get in a fine hotel, yet they want to have the ability to see destinations that they otherwise couldn't. And the perception of cruise lines and cruise ships, unfortunately, gets a little tarnished in the media when we're seeing these large cruise ships with 4,000 passengers on board that are traveling the world. This is anything but that experience. And for those who may be hesitant to take a cruise because of that perception, they need to really relook at that option, because I've had clients that have hesitated in the past, and once we put them on a luxury line like Regent or Crystal, their eyes are wide open and say, "Wow,
this
it's
is
amazing.
the cruise we expected."
This is not the cruise we expected." So yeah.
Well, let's move continents to something a little more traditional. Let's give us some popular destinations and ways to visit and explore Europe.
Certainly. Yeah, so Europe will always be popular, and of course the people that have been there, done that, are looking for new destinations within Europe. Eastern Europe is becoming a little more popular now. Places like Croatia is a very popular destination. Croatia has stayed open through most of the pandemic, actually, but now we're seeing most of Europe open up, which is exciting. I actually just booked my first Italy trip today for September, so people are starting to get much more comfortable about going back to Europe. But certain countries that have maybe not been as well visited are now on the list. Portugal is a very big country that people are interested in right now, so we're seeing interest in Portugal. Italy will always be a favorite.
And do you find that people who end up going to Portugal, do they work Spain into the trip, or even
certainly
work Morocco into the trip just because of the locations and the convenience?
Absolutely. Very doable to have, multi-country trips, certainly in that region. Portugal, Spain, like you said, Morocco is certainly something that you can weave into a trip like that. But yes, it's becoming much more in vogue to take 2 weeks off and explore these destinations that you maybe haven't gone to in the past.
And then let's go back to Italy a little bit. Talk about the cultural immersion. I mean, we talked about experiences and pampering and things like that, but there is a desire to become a part of the country or to really experience the culture, right?
Absolutely. And Italy, of course, with its history and its culture and its food and its wine, is one of the favorite countries to, again, immerse yourself into that. So what we do at our agency is we find out what our clients' interests are. And if it happens to be food and wine, we'll try to plan an experience for them, or multiple experiences during their trip, so that they're actually getting some kind of a special access, if you will, to either it be a winery and showing the winemaking process and be involved in the winemaking process, not just going and sampling wine, but actually getting the knowledge behind it. So something like that, we love doing that for our clients, and actually finding out what their interests are and getting them immersed into the culture, no matter what country they're at.
Sure. And of course, there's so many diverse cultures and and concepts and practices throughout Europe. What's a good way for somebody to sample those different destinations and really kind of maybe plan for the future as to where they might go back and spend a little bit more time somewhere?
Sure. So there's a couple of ways to do that, James. I mean, you can do multi-country land-based tours where, it's the old adage, if it's Monday, it must be Rome, right? But and that's for a lot of people. They want to get that sample. They want to have a couple of days here, a couple of days there, and then go back and spend more time in those locations that interest them. Cruising, of course, is also another way to do that. You're somewhat limited on port cities that you can see, and you can do some inland, of course, tours. But the cruising will give you some sampling of the destinations around Europe that you may want to revisit again. So,
and what does a river cruise in Europe look like in terms of numbers of passengers and things like that? It's not Royal Caribbean, but it's probably not it's probably not the yacht either. What does it look like?
It's somewhere in between there. Yes, exactly. So river cruise vessels usually run, again, in probably maximum 200, but most of them run about the 120 to 140 passenger range. And again, what they're doing with river cruise vessels is amazing. Just like we talked about the luxury cruise vessels, ocean vessels. The amenities they're putting on board the river cruises these days, rival a lot of the things that you'll find on an ocean cruise now. So multiple restaurants, spas, and things that appeal to today's traveler. So river cruising again is the alternative to the ocean cruising in Europe. So you're going to go internally through the rivers of Europe, whether it be the Rhine or the Danube or the rivers of France. And it's a way to at a leisurely pace, see all these destinations. So it's a great way to, again, sample a lot of the destinations throughout Europe in a different way.
And is there another part, if we stay on the subject of that river cruise or a way to sample, is there another destination that people might not associate with river cruising that might be ideal for that in a discovery format?
You mean a different river cruise destination?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So river cruises, we have them in Europe, but river cruises are also popular on the Nile. So you can do an Egyptian tour in combo, maybe a land tour with a river cruise in the Nile, which is fantastic. And Southeast Asia is another big region for river cruising. So, cruising Vietnam, Cambodia, Mekong on the Mekong River is another popular destination for river cruising.
I bet that would be. What does kind of an itinerary like that look like if you focused on let's just stay in Southeast Asia on a river cruise? How many days are we talking about, and what does a sample itinerary look like?
So most river cruises in Southeast Asia again will go along the Mekong. You'll start either in Vietnam or Cambodia. You'll go from Ho Chi Minh City down through several stops in Vietnam up to Cambodia and end in Cambodia. But what most people will do with the river cruising is they'll extend their trip, because just spending 7 days in Asia, Southeast Asia on a river cruise, that doesn't seem to make much sense since there's so much else to see over there. So again, limitations with any cruise is the areas you can reach. So what we recommend our clients to do is to extend a river cruise in Southeast Asia and probably go to Thailand. Thailand's a great extension on a river cruise, so you can combine Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, go to Bangkok, go down to the southern islands of Thailand, and go to Phuket and all those areas. So if you want a little bit of a tropical beach vacation, you can combine that in with all of your cultural touring. So there's a lot of things you can, and of course, Hong Kong, Singapore, and all those destinations you can combine in.
Sure. So maybe a 3-week itinerary, is that something that sounds?
Yeah, I mean, you can do.
Right, you talked about doing that.
Sure, I mean 3 is nice. You could certainly do that in maybe 2 weeks with a 1 week river cruise. Depends on what you want to see. Most of them will probably be talking about 3 weeks. Yes.
And then finally, for those listeners they're ready to travel but maybe not ready to commit to international travel, let's spend some time on just a domestic destination or two. What's your favorite?
Absolutely. Well, if you like the tropics and you're used to going to islands, then of course we have our jewel in our country is Hawaii and the Hawaiian Islands. And great news this month, Hawaii has just opened up without any requirement of testing to get in. So if you're vaccinated, you can travel to Hawaii with no testing requirements, no quarantine requirements. So basically, you're going to Hawaii just like you did before. No difference. I will warn everyone, though, that Hawaii is extremely popular right now because of the opening and because it is a domestic destination. So it's busy. Plan early if you do want to do the Hawaiian Islands. And, of course, we can do multi-island trips, combining Oahu with Maui, Kauai, Big Island, some of the smaller islands out there too, Molokai, depending on what your taste is, how much time you have. So Hawaii, always a good bet if you don't want to travel internationally, if you want that tropical destination.
And give us one more in the contiguous United States.
So contiguous United States, if you're into more of the touring type, the national parks have been very busy this summer. So, you can take a tour of the national parks. California coast is always a popular bet too, wine country, doing the whole coast of California. And
I don't know if you saw that match, the golf match the other night on television, but I would imagine everybody's calling wanting to go to Montana, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Up there is beautiful, beautiful country, and then of course Florida Keys. Florida Keys is always again another sort of exotic place within the country. If you want something a little more tropical, so Key West is very popular domestically.
And that's going to do it for part 1 of episode 2 on travel. It's our destination segment. Thank you so much, Carl, from Anderson Vacations. Man, we covered a lot of ground. We went from the Northern Lights to Antarctica. We river cruised on the Rhine and the Mekong. And even though we kept it domestic, we went all the way from Hawaii to the Florida Keys. But the real takeaway is here, the next time somebody asks you if you want to, have an adventure, or if you want luxury, or if you want to experience the true culture of your destination, or just to be pampered, just smile, step back, and say yes. Because with the right amount of planning, you can have it all. Thank you, Carl, for a great 15-minute trip around the world, and we'll be looking forward to part 2 on hosted travel. And thank you all for listening. Please follow us, review us, reach out to us, because we can only do our best work when you're actually here to listen. Check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, and all the socials, and get ready for part 2 with Carl on hosted travel. It's prepped and ready to drop. Thank you.